and welcome to Promo Insiders, a new podcast from ASI's Counselor Magazine. In this weekly series, we tackle the topics that matter most to the promotional products industry, from hard-hitting news to fun trends. I'm Sarah Lewandowski with Advantages Magazine, and today I'm joined by my colleagues Chris Rubo, John Corrigan, and Kyle Aschenfelder about our experiences in isolation and remote work. It's now been over a month since we started working from home full-time during the coronavirus. So how are we dealing? What's been our favorite TV series to binge? What secret joys have we discovered? And most importantly, what hopeful stories are we hearing from the industry? That's our topic. So we have a full house today. I am joined by Chris Rubo, the executive editor of Counselor, senior writer John Corrigan, and multimedia coordinator Kyle Aschenfelder. He's usually the man behind the machine when you listen to our podcast or watch our videos, but he's in front of the camera today and the microphone. Now, I usually see you guys all the time, like John and Kyle. We have make like a triangle at the office. It's like 5 steps from me to you, but I haven't seen any of you guys in person in over a month. So for now, this will have to do, but if for those of you listening and watching, if you have seen the dispatches from the Work From Home Front series that our colleague Teresa Hagel puts together each week, I thought that it would be fun to do like a low-key podcast version of it. So let's start with Chris. So Chris, how you been doing?
Yeah, Sarah, I'm hanging in there, I guess, like everybody else, right? Just trying to, I mean, we're fortunate, right? We're fortunate because we're working, and there's certainly no shortage of work to do given everything that's going on in our industry. So fortunate that way for sure.
Yep, and you know better than most of us about that because you've been covering this virus for like months, like since January. You've been covering it when it was starting in China and getting worse there. So it has definitely gotten real, I think, for you in particular.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could still remember chatting with our boss, Michelle Bell. We had, this is back in January. Maybe we should write a little story on this coronavirus situation in China. See, there might be something material there that could impact the industry. So that's how rapidly this has come on, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And John, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in. I moved, bought a house during the coronavirus. Probably the worst time possible to do it, but this is. I read Chris's work, but I didn't realize it was going to happen overnight, and all of our lives would change.
Yeah.
Yep.
But everything's going good, and like Chris said, I mean, we got to be grateful. There's so many people in our industry and every industry that suffering right now, and we're hanging in there.
Yep. Tell me about it. Kyle, how you hanging in there? You all right?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty good. It's funny, John, you were talking about how, you're reading Chris's stuff and you didn't think it was going to be like this. Literally fun little story here. Right before this all went down, John and I were recording a podcast. And before we were recording the podcast, we were literally discussing with each other, hey, when do you think this is going to hit us? When do you think this is going to change our lives? Literally an hour later, we got the email discussing, hey, we're going to start working from home. This is getting serious. So it's kind of funny how that happened. But yeah,
so quick, right?
Very quick. Everything happened so fast. It happened so fast that I actually wasn't able to get set up with a work laptop. I had to bring my whole, a 24-inch monitor iMac. I had to pack that up. Fun fact, because I have a keyboard. And like not a keyboard, but like a piano keyboard. And there's a case in it. I literally had to stick this in the piano keyboard case, and it looked really stupid because here's this smaller computer, and there's like flaps on the end because obviously the case is meant for a keyboard. So it kind of looked goofy, but look, it's just everything happened so fast that we just didn't have time to make the transition for everybody. So it was pretty wild.
Yeah. So true.
Yep. And I got to say, like, Kyle, thank you so much for helping us get our stuff online so quickly, because without you and Vinny, and Kathleen helps you too, but we push out so much stuff and just get the content up and distributed, we really rely on you guys to do that. So you're very instrumental in that. So we appreciate that too. So awesome. I really just wanted to talk today about how it's been for everybody, this month in isolation. I know there's a lot of bad news out there, and it's scary. It's overwhelming for people. And I know our audience is concerned for, their health, their loved ones' health, their business health. We're concerned for the same things. But actually, what I've seen out of the industry in the past week, so a couple weeks, is a lot of really heartening things. The industry is really being very resourceful. I see a lot of companies helping each other out in different ways, getting very creative with that. I just really wanted to focus on the positive and just acknowledge where we are and, those things we've encountered that are heartening and giving us hope, and give everyone a fun little boost, maybe a small break from the doom and gloom.
Right.
So let's start with our perennial favorite that everybody has an opinion on, which is the TV series and movies you've been watching. So Kyle, I'll start with you. What have you been watching, binging?
A lot of stuff. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna say right off the bat, no, I have not seen Tiger King. I
Oh,
know a lot of people.
on.
I know a lot of people are gonna talk about that. Look, it just doesn't look appealing to me. I know part of it's actually kind of like a murder mystery, and I'm usually into that type of stuff, but something just feels off about
Yeah.
it. But in terms of binging things, it's gotten really random. I've watched movies that I haven't watched in forever. Actually, one night, now this was just on normal television, but I was set to watch something at like 8 o'clock on a certain night, and they were showing Dumb and Dumber back to back. Like they had Dumb and Dumber before it, the program, and then afterwards. I literally watched Dumb and Dumber twice in one night. I couldn't help it. It was just, I love that movie. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. I grew up watching Jim Carrey. So like stuff like that. I found a series on Netflix that it's not one of the more popular series. It's a series called 100 Humans. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Mm-mm.
It's like a half-hour TV show. It's a half-hour show, 40 minutes ish. And it's this group of people that got together and did all these experiments with a set group of 100 humans. And it's really talking about, it's actually really exploring like the human condition and how humans behave. They went through, what did I see? I saw, they kind of went through, which male or female, who's more prone or who takes longer to get ready for things. They did an experiment where they told this whole group of people, 100 people, they said, okay, we're going on a field trip. We have two buses. If you're a woman, get on this bus. If you're a man, get on this bus. And the whole experiment was that they wanted to see, because look, some of the stereotype is that women take longer to get ready for things. You see the videos all the time of their, someone's boyfriend being like, honey, can we get going? Stop doing your makeup. You look fine. All that stuff. You see that all the time. So that was the stereotype they were trying to debunk. And fun fact, spoiler alert, they actually found that in this group of 100 people, the women were ready before the men were.
Ooh.
Yeah. The women,
I don't know if I buy that.
and how they did it was, if you got in the bus, okay, they count who's all on the bus. And then they gave it 10 minutes or something like that. And then after 10 minutes, whoever wasn't on the bus, they drove off. And then the people left behind were like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? Now, they didn't actually go on a field trip, and they found out later that it was all an experiment. But it's stuff like that, like different areas of human behavior that they're testing. It's just interesting. It's fun, pretty well produced, stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool. Chris, what have you been binging?
We've watched Lock and Key on Netflix. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like, I think it's based on a graphic novel, and it's set in Massachusetts. It all involves a kind of like a family curse, some interdimensional travel, and this crazy house where there's these keys that have magical properties. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's been a lot of fun to watch. And if you haven't seen it, if you like things like in the vein of like a Stranger Things, you might enjoy this. And the other one we watched is another Netflix bit called Black Spot. Are you guys familiar with this one? All right, it's in French, so they dub the titles in English, or excuse me, they dub the track in English, so it could be a little corny when you're watching them, kind of with the English go over the French, but it's a good story, and it also has some similar like dark fantastical elements that you have with like a similar to that Lock and Key. Basically, it's set in an area in France that's remote. There's a forest. There's a Celtic god. There's weird murders. It's fun.
Can we
Yeah, I'd say just go ahead, John, and you talk
Okay.
about some stuff because we lost Sarah, so we'll get her back in a second. Actually, there she is right now.
Okay.
So we'll get her in right now. So there you go.
See what I mean? It's me.
Yeah. So I think Chris is done. So Sarah,
Yeah.
whoever you wanted to go next.
Yeah. So, John, what have you been watching, binging? I know you've been busy though.
Well, I don't want to let Kyle off the hook on not watching Tiger King because the whole country's watching it, the whole world's watching it. We have to talk
So
about that.
good.
It's fantastic. You know, I'm afraid that you think that because it's overhyped, it's not worth it. But believe me, it is. You are going to be hooked.
Yep.
They came out with Joel McHale just came out with like an after show episode of it. It's even crazier. The new conspiracy. Sarah, Chris, you guys have both seen it. Did Carol do it? Yes or no?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way they paint it. That's for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know because they everybody involved says that it was edited a certain way to kind of add more drama. So I don't know if I believe it or not.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like the narrative they put, the narrative certainly suggests that she did, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, maybe suggest is even a light word. So but you're right, John. That there's that subjectivity that goes into actually what you choose to include in the documentary and what you choose to leave out, what you choose to focus on. So that definitely could influence our opinions one way or the other.
And I will say that also happened. If you guys remember Making a Murderer, and they came up with a second part of that, you're going to see a lot of that with that one too. It's look, there's obviously going to be a narrative they're driving towards, but that's just kind of par for the course, really.
Yep.
Well, that's it. Tiger King's been the main thing. Money Heist. Have you guys heard about that on Netflix?
I did. Saw some of that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Chris was saying with the film. This one's filmed in Spanish with the English dubbed over it. But I guess the way they shot it was so well done that you like forget that it's shot in Spanish. Everybody sounds good. It's a thriller about a bank heist that goes wrong and it maybe doesn't go wrong. So it's really good.
Cool.
Awesome. I haven't binged too much. I did watch Tiger King, but actually, Community is now on Netflix, and
Whoa!
I know. Yes, and it came up, and I was like, I've never seen it. I have to see it, and so that's been. Speaking of Joel McHale, that has been a real joy. I must say,
you're in for a real treat. I loved Community.
Awesome.
Community was amazing.
Yep, it's on Netflix. You can enjoy all over again. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have been listening to a lot of podcasts. Like I listened to them more when I was commuting to ASI because my commute was like exactly the time of a podcast episode. It was like door to door, would be like done. So it was perfect. But I haven't really been listening to a lot of them recently because it's hard for me to listen to them while I'm working. Like I prefer music for working. But have you guys been listening to any cool podcasts? Anything going on there, Chris?
Sarah, I saw this question and I wish I had a snappy answer, but no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm working 12 to 14-hour days sometimes, and then we're trying to educate our children here as at home with the online schooling and everything. And I just haven't had the chance. I've been listening to good stuff, but it's not podcast. It's been like background music where I'll put I think I've sent some of these around the office on email pools, right? Like where I'll have a rain track in the background and then I'll listen to some kind of like bossa nova music or something like that, just to kind of like chill you out and get your good brain vibes going. Yeah. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what
I was just saying like some of the white noise, John, what have you been listening to?
The Birds, that's pretty much it. But Chris, I wanted to ask, I've some distributors, that I've been talking to, they're saying that it's not just tough about their business, but that their kids are home and they got to be part teacher, part business owner. And how's that been for you guys?
It's been difficult for sure. And I think it's something probably everybody can relate to who's going through it. Very fortunately, my wife who also works, has a flexible she's very flexible in what she could do. So she's been really just Superwoman, Wonder Woman rather, on this. She's kind of taken the lead on it, which has allowed me to work as much as I've been. But it's a lot of pressure to just get it done, quite frankly. But there's the supports in place are good from the school district, so that has helped. But still, it's like it doesn't replace a teacher, of course, doesn't replace going to school for 6 hours a day. So it's just a matter of trying to. There are enough hours in the day. It's just they're all occupied for sure.
And I'm sure that's harder on the kids too, because they don't get to go see their friends, and usually at school it's a nice social experience. But now it's like it's so secluded. I'm sure that's hard.
Yeah, true. But I will say it's so much better than it would have been for like when we were maybe growing up, because their ability to interact through like online games, through like the Xbox, through
Fortnite.
like oh my gosh, they're all over the Fortnite. Like for them, their ability to like they have phones, so they FaceTime their friends and stuff like that. So it's if we let them, they'd sit in their rooms there for hours just gaming online with their friends, and we kind of aren't too strict about it because it at least allows them to have social interaction with their friends. So so yeah,
nice. So Kyle, have you been listening to anything, podcast, music, anything special?
Well, see, I've been listening to more music. I mean, I'll go back because there's some podcasts that have kind of come to a standstill, but the thing with podcasting is that you can still do it from anywhere.
Right.
Not as many podcasts. I mean, I still listen to Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan. I mean, it's a longer podcast, like really like 3-hour podcast, but it's worth taking bits and pieces here and there.
Quality for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, my go-to thing, and look, I'm not a gamer at all. I don't play many video games, but like lately I mentioned Fortnite, Chris. I love Fortnite. I play Fortnite. And I my go-to to wind down is either I will crank some music and play Fortnite, or crank some music. And I'm a big sucker for the NCAA football video games because I'm a huge football fan. I played them all through my childhood. I will crank those on and just crank through like different games and stuff like that. So it's kind of changed the way I consume media and changed the media that I do consume.
That's interesting.
It's weird. It's like the things I usually do or usually listen to, I kind of stopped. It's very strange.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
agreed. Totally. Have you guys had any like secret joys, like little things that kind of brightened your day? Like I know there was another podcast I listened to early on, and the host said, and I've been like every day I tune in, and I don't know if you guys know, but Patrick Stewart from Star Trek, he reads a sonnet a day from Shakespeare, hashtag a sonnet a day. He sits in his easy chair, he puts his glasses on, he does a little mini intro, and then he reads through the sonnet and just ends it. It's like a minute. And it's just so nice. You should check it out. It's really cool.
That's cool.
And the other thing is, I don't know if you guys heard about, I think I brought this up before, there's the National Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City. Their head of security is now the social media guy.
Twitter,
Oh my gosh, his tweets are adorable. They're so wholesome. He shows you all around the museum. He like doesn't quite know how to use social, but he's getting like millions of likes. Like
he's
really
the one who writes out the word hashtag, right?
Yeah,
like he writes like hashtag
Cowboy.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah.
It's great, and he has all these dad jokes. It's awesome. You got to check that out.
Nice.
But Chris, what have your been like? Any secret joys, little things that have come up that have kind of just brightened your day?
I think the way to put it would be in general. I have I think I'm a pretty like thankful person. Like I tried to be grateful and have gratitude in my life before this, but certainly this has caused me to focus a lot more intently and internalize that pretty deeply, like a sense of thanks and gratefulness just for that. We're sitting here talking about how it's tough to educate the kids at home, but the kids are healthy and they're at home. They're not in a hospital, like they're here. They're still able to do school. They have the means to do that, things. And I could write out a list of 1,000 things like that, right. That I've kind of just reflected more deeply on in light of all this. And I think that just kind of happens throughout the day multiple times where I'll just kind of stop and say, oh man, is rough as this can be at times, it's hey, we're still breathing and we're
Yeah.
healthy, and thank God for that. So I think just in general, a greater sense of gratefulness has definitely come from this for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kyle, any little things in your day?
I mean, he kind of hit the nail on the head with the gratitude thing, and it's definitely, as I said before about how it's changed the way I consume media and everything. It's opened me up to different activities. It's kind of forced me to get a little creative with because look, when we first started this whole thing, I kind of had a plan like, okay, well, I'm going to be home for a little bit, so I'm going to do these things. And then a week later, I'm like, well, I'm bored of that already. So I had to really get creative a little bit and think, what other things can I explore? What can I learn? What can I stimulate my brain with? That's been nice. Also, the working from home thing isn't so bad, just in my case, because the thing that's really nice for me is that I can get pretty much everything that I want to do in a day done by 5:00. By the end of the workday, I can take a break, get cooking in. I can get a quick workout in. I can get a shower in after that. I can do I can clean around the house, the apartment and everything, all in the middle of the day, because I can just take little breaks here and there.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm in the office, can't drive home and quick do the laundry,
Sure.
so there's definitely some positives to this, but I mean, obviously I miss having human interaction. And obviously,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, look, I pride myself in being a good mix between an extrovert and an introvert. I have a good blend, but I've really realized how social I really am, and I didn't realize it. So it's been enlightening.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. John, anything brightening your day?
Aside from Joe Haley's daily emails, well, no, I mean,
Yeah, really.
being home, with my family more. I mean, everybody's trapped. Nobody can go anywhere, so we've got to spend more time playing hoops in the backyard and stuff. It's pretty nice. We actually, we've all been home for a month. I don't know if this is true for you guys, but we haven't really gotten sick of each other yet, which is pretty surprising.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just been nice to just be all together and everybody's getting through it together.
Well said.
Nice.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. On that note, I think just working on a lot of virus coverage, we've been hearing stories just out of the industry, and I just wanted to invite you guys to share anything that you've been hearing that's been heartening. And I know I had a conversation with Kimball Bosworth, which I know, Chris, you know her. John, you probably know her too.
Yeah.
On promos in Nashville.
Yep.
And she shared this story with me where it had nothing to do with selling, marketing, nothing. She has a client who is a single mother who was laid off because of the virus, and now she has a daughter at home who's now learning from home for the rest of the school year. And her daughter is inquisitive. She wants a teacher. She's very curious about things. And Kimball's client shared with her, like, it is very stressful.
Mhm.
I'm here. I'm trying to, figure out my employment situation. My daughter is just very inquisitive, and she wants to learn.
Mhm.
And so Kimball actually offered to host a video conference with the student, her daughter, the client's daughter, and any friends she wanted to invite. And Kimball has some art, like she and her husband have collected art over the years, and she was going to give them like a museum lesson,
Oh,
like
wow.
with the art.
How cool
I
is
know.
that?
And just,
Yeah.
like, show them the different art and the different styles, and let them ask questions. And I just thought, and I was like, I got like kind of teared up a little. I was like, oh my goodness, like Kimball. And she was like, it's just what you do in the situation. What else can you do? You can only help where you're called to help. And that's what she's doing. And it's things like that I see people doing that I'm like, okay, we're going to be okay. I don't know really what it's going to look like on the other side. No one really knows. But if people are still able to do that in the middle of this, we're going to be okay. You know what I mean? It just really was very heartening for me. But John, have you seen anything out of the industry, heard any stories out of the industry so far?
Yeah. In the different distributors that I've talked to, even a couple suppliers, not really any have been able to say that they can fully keep their workforce the way it is, whether that means reducing hours or layoffs or whatever. But Chris Farris of Boost Promotions in the Boston area, he has been able to maintain his workforce. Um, he wasn't doing PPE before this, and it just so happened that he had a contact reach out to him about maybe 2-3 weeks ago, asking if he was interested. And so he wasn't really sure, and this was before the PPE really exploded. So he had his wife go on Facebook and just ask around, make a status or whatever, saying, "Is anybody looking for supplies or anything like that?" Throughout the night, constant calls, messages, emails. Everybody was trying to get a hold of him to get this PPE. This happened on a Saturday. By Monday, he landed a 7-figure order for PPE.
Not bad.
And yeah, and has been able to keep his whole staff. Is able to. I don't want to say be comfortable, but not worry like so many people are about what they're going to do, and there's different strategies, and it's opened them up to a whole new market because now PPE is going to be his bread and butter, while this is going on. So, and he also he wanted me to mention in the article, I'll mention it here, that he's looking to help out anybody that needs it, whether it's advice, whether it's helping source product, whatever it takes. He's been so grateful for this opportunity. He's looking to, pass it forward throughout the industry.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Love that. Yeah, Chris, what have you been hearing?
Actually, some in a positive sense, some stories along those lines as well. We know for sure that a lot of distributors and suppliers have been able to successfully pivot to selling these PPE products, and in a lot of cases, it's keeping the light. It's more than keeping the lights on. It's leading to sales increases. One example of that, similar to John's, is up in upstate New York, A&P Master Images, Howard Potter, who I think a lot of us are familiar with. They've been in business 17 years. They never laid anybody off. They've had annual increases every year, even during the recession. And then this whole situation hit, and virtually overnight they were looking at ruin, and they had to lay off something like 14 of their 20 employees. Well, wow. That was that was sickening for folks like the Potters, who are real family people. It's a family-run business, the whole bit. Anyway, long story short, quick research into how to sell PPE, and then also quick research into how to make some PPE items in-house using their in-house production staff led to a complete turnaround. They were able to start selling this stuff en masse, hired the employees back that they had let go, and are one of the few distributorships in the industry, at least based on the research we've done at ASI, that had a sales increase for the first quarter. So if you combine their PPE sales with their traditional promotional product sales for the first quarter, they were up about 20%, which is almost unheard of with what's going on now. So that's a really nice success story. And I'll just add one other thing, that today, which would be, what's today, the 14th of April, I still have track. We posted an article on asicentral.com/news about how, yes, PPE is keeping a lot of businesses afloat, but traditional sales of your traditional promotional products in print are still happening too. And there's distributors out there that are having success continuing to sell promo, maybe not quite at the level of what it was, but still fairly robust, at least in some instances. So there's good stuff there. There's good stuff happening. I think the point I want to make is that people feel like there's no promo sales happening at all, or no print. There is, and there are some distributors that have found niches to get into that are continuing to propel the actual promo side of the business. It's not just all PPE. So I found that very encouraging, just to hear that, hey, there are distributors out there that are still selling their bread and butter stuff that this industry is built on, and that they've had some effective strategies for doing that. So I just we'll hopefully hear more stories like that. And then the last thing I'll say is, I've been hearing really over the last couple of days, literally the last couple of days, from distributors, that there's some sense that this situation is stabilizing, that we're at least not in the full-blown free fall that we've been in for 3.5 weeks or almost a full month now, that there's a sense, there's a sense that it's stabilizing, and that, hey, things aren't about to rebound, massively anytime soon, but that we're at least at a stabilized point, and that there's some sense of sanity returning to the marketplace, and that could help. And that seems to be coinciding with, we're hearing out of the health experts that we might soon be coming to the peak of the pandemic, and we'll start to see infections and deaths, sadly, start to go the other way. So there's a glimmer of hope out there, right? Yeah,
for sure. Kyle, have you been hearing anything from the industry?
Well, because I'll admit I don't have the direct communication with the suppliers, distributors and suppliers that you guys do, and
Right.
I have to compliment you guys mainly because, number one, you guys do a great job with the coverage, and we know it because there are members of ours that literally tell us that, hey, we'd rather read your coverage, watch your coverage than watch Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. Like, that's a big compliment.
It's really nice to hear.
And just hearing the stories, like hearing the update from Howard Potter, because I was there for that podcast, and he seemed really concerned about having to lay off employees and everything and how things were going to go. It's encouraging to hear his story. I think back to when we talked to Randy Chen and getting that really in-depth look at just the symptoms, but also how he's dealt with it, just getting that industry idea. But
and Randy, of course, he works in the industry, and he had coronavirus, and Kyle and I did a podcast with him.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And it's interesting to see how businesses, and some of them have done a really good job at adapting to this whole situation, because there's a lot of people out there that just kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, look, I don't know what to do. But obviously in Howard Potter's situation, they did obviously an excellent job at being adaptable. But something else he talked about he was worried about how if he lays off some employees, some of them may not come back, because I will say I've noticed that some people have kind of looked at this situation as, okay, I'm out of work, and they're looking for other things to fill the time before they get called back. But then there's also some people that have found other jobs that, hey, you know what, I could maybe stick with this. So it's kind of a scary time for a lot of people, because they don't want to get rid of these employees, but they kind of are forced to, and then they aren't so certain that they're going to come back. So that's really that's just something personally that I'm looking at, wow, that's scary.
The lost talent is a real concern. Like you said, they might move to another job and just say, well, why would I leave this now? I'm actually making some money doing, maybe some gig work. They're not going to be rushing back to the job that let them go, right? You know what I mean? So that's a real concern. It's a real concern for people. All great stories. Just seeing the industry be very resourceful has been very, very encouraging. Well, that is all the time we have today, guys. So thanks for joining me. And for everybody watching, we're going to get through it. So just stay safe, be well, wash those hands. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.